Hey guys, I'm Jax and I just saw the new horror film, The First Omen, a prequel to the iconic 70s horror film, The Omen. Now I've got to be completely honest, I'm a little bit shaken, I'm a little bit disorientated because I walked into a modern prequel to a beloved iconic horror franchise. So I walked in expecting one thing, and then when I left the cinema, I had seen a modern prequel of an iconic horror franchise. But I also saw another thing. A good movie. Not just a good movie, but a great movie. A truly terrifying, haunting, devastating, perverse, insane horror movie. One of the best horror movies I've seen in cinemas in a very long time. And I'm not really sure how to process this information. I just didn't expect it to be any good whatsoever. I'm just so confused because, did Hollywood forget to tell the director? When we drag the corpse of a beloved IP and franchise out and hang it up like a puppet and dance this dead corpse that everyone loved from 50 years ago, we parade it around that it's not meant to be good? Did they forget to tell her that? This is a truly spectacular horror film. This is a real movie. Is this what they're all meant to be like? Like, are they meant to be good movies? Have they been trying to make good movies this whole time? I just don't understand how this happened. I expected something not this good, and it turned out to be very, very good. Horrifying and absolutely perverse. Like, if you don't want to see some absolute disgusting body horror, religious, nightmarish horror, this will kill you. But I like this. So The First Omen follows Margaret, a young nun who comes to live in a nunnery church citadel of the nuns, where the nuns live, I guess. I don't know. Somewhere in Rome, there's a big church and she goes to live there. Everything seems super hunky-dory, but maybe there's something sinister afoot. Maybe there's a bit of a The Omen situation. Maybe, because it's the prequel to The Omen, someone is going to give birth to Damien, the Antichrist. Yeah, if you're not aware what The Omen was, The Omen is a film about a little boy and his dad's I think this boy's the Antichrist? And he just deals with that for 2 hours, and it's insane. And so this is a prequel to that, in which someone in this church, nunnery, religious house thingy, someone is gonna give birth to Damien. Maybe your baby's the Antichrist. Oh no, what you gonna do? The way that this film kind of really stands apart from other horror prequels, and especially other modern horror films and other modern prequel remakes and all those things, is how this film tells its story, but not even that, more so how this film kind of creates a sense of actual horror. The first thing I noticed in this film is it actually created tension, suspense. It had this really eerie, unpleasant, kind of slow build of tension throughout the whole film. There is maybe 2 or 3 jump scares in the whole film. They are super, super effective. They feel really well earned. They don't just keep throwing jump scares at you left, right, and center to keep you entertained. It feels like this film understands the type of horror film it wants to be, and it knows it can't be cheap and lazy with really pathetic, lazy jump scares, which I feel like heaps of modern horror films keep doing all the time. Even the good ones, I feel like, fall prey to this really kind of lazy way to kind of keep you scared. Whereas this film, just with its cinematography, its score, the performances, all of which are firing on all cylinders, they are all so, so good, but it just creates this really unpleasant, unsettling feeling. The film is just haunting. The film is devastating. And then when it hits you with the big moments of either violence or perverse religious horror, body horror, weird, wacky things, when they finally kind of have these big moments throughout it, it feels so earned, and they don't just kind of go, blah, blah. They just build up to these moments, and it is just truly unpleasant and upsetting. This film is just devastating and perverse and off and weird. It has this really eerie, unpleasant feeling in the best way possible. The way that this film is filmed and framed. There are 2 moments in this film towards the back end where the camera just lingers on a shot. Just one shot, and it just lets this horrifying, demented, weird, insane thing just take place in front of you, and you've just got to experience it. You can't look away. It doesn't let you. It just holds on it. It does nothing fancy. It just lets the absolute horror of what you are seeing, which is truly horrifying and completely well earned due to the plot and the story and the characters and all of that. And it just makes you experience it. It is so very good in those regards. And also the thing that I think kind of elevates it, which I think for some people that they might find it a bit overbearing, because it is incredibly overbearing, but I think in the best way, is the score. The score for this film is just next level insane. It is so upsetting and weird and perverse. There is just constant, insane, over-the-top kind of choir singing, chanting, women just wailing, and just madness. It is so spine-tinglingly just... I don't like it, but I loved it. There were a couple of shots of just wide shots of the city and the camera just moving in these really weird, unnatural ways. And just the insane, wild choir, wailing, chanting sounds was just super unnerving. It doesn't sound the same, but it reminded me of the same just unhinged musical wildness that Suspiria has, which I feel like I never get in a movie. And it's definitely not that extreme, it's not that good, but that might be my favorite horror soundtrack. That's just the most crazy unhinged thing in the world. It's super cool as well. This isn't like kind of cool, this is just mostly very religious, choir, chanty horrorness. It's just real good, man. This film has no right to be this good. It has no right to be this good. Because we kind of know the outcome of like what has to happen at the end of the movie. There's this really intense sense of dread and tragedy and this inevitable kind of, we can't escape this. Or can we? Can we escape this? There are some really interesting things in the third act. There are some twists, turns, reveals, and revelations that I didn't expect, but in hindsight I probably should have, but I thought it was really interesting how even though I felt like, and this is often a prequel situation, it's like you get to the end of the movie and you kind of know where all the pieces have to end up, whereas even though I knew it, I still was kind of on the edge of my seat and kind of unsure how it was going to play out. And at times it also makes you go, is this actually a true prequel? Or is this going to be like a resetting? Is this an actual reboot? Is this going to play out differently at the end and not actually lead in to the original The Omen? And I won't spoil which way it goes here, but I actually thought it was really interesting for a prequel to tease that kind of unpredictability, because it's like, I truly didn't know. I was like, oh, I just expected it would definitely be a flat-out prequel leading straight into The Omen, a Rogue One into a New Hope situation. But it's not necessarily that, which I thought was really interesting. Or is it? No, it's not. Or is it? So the lead in this film is Nell Tiger-Free, who you may know from Servant, where she plays Leanne, and she is truly sensational. Like, the standout in that series, she is exceptional. She is overwhelmingly spectacular in that show. She has this very innocent look, but there is this hidden, simmering darkness underneath her. She does screaming and terror and horror really, really well, and she just has this really upsetting, unnerving vibe about her when she wants to. And it's really funny as well, because all the themes and ideas of that show Servant are exactly the same as this movie, in which she's the lead, and all the themes about like motherhood, babies, religious horror, vaguely supernatural weird stuff going on. Like, all of those things are exactly the main things about Servant, and they're all the same main things about the first Omen. It's the same. It's so funny. They would have seen this script and gone, oh, there's only one person we can get because she's perfect in Servant, and they got her in this, and she's perfect in this. She rocks up as this nun, and she has this kind of very innocent, sweet kind of vibe, a bit naive looking, but then as the film turns, it gets crazier and crazier and crazier. She just totally takes that on board, and she deals with the horror in just this exceptional way. She's a very good scream queen in terms of her screaming. She's just so good at looking scared and terrified. She just gives such an absolutely powerful, devastating performance. There's one shot in this movie with her that is maybe the most insane, wild, just brilliant thing I've seen from a performer in a horror film in so long. I cannot think of the last time I was so impressed by an actor or actress or just anybody in a movie doing something that's so weird and wild, and it's so totally earned. Like, I feel like there are a couple of plot points in the film and a couple of moments where I'm like, oh, I don't know if that makes 100% sense, or maybe I'll just need to revisit it once I talk to a couple of people. It'll make sense to me. There's also kind of a reveal of like why Damien needs to be born and who the people who are doing it and why they want to do it, that I feel like is maybe a retcon to the original film, but I haven't seen all the sequels. So maybe that was always the idea, but it feels like a kind of a weird retcon where I'm like, oh, I thought they were just this, but now they're this, which seems insane and kind of dumb. But all of that, who cares? Because the way this film tells its story, with the way it presents horror, with how the performers act, with the score, the cinematography, everything is so masterful and spectacular. I can totally forgive and handwave silly plot ideas and potential retcons and the actual origins of the Damien baby and all these things, because when this film does the things that it does best, it is so good. So I will say, I'll give a little bit of a warning, because this film gets real weird. It gets real weird and perverse, and there are two birthing sequences that are absolutely unhinged and demonic and just real gross and weird. I loved them. I thought they were so inventive and disturbing and interesting and really, really well made. If you don't want to see some gnarly, gross, weird stuff related to birthing, well, watch the whole movie, but at a certain point, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, no, oh my God. I don't know what I expected. I guess I just didn't expect it to be so absolutely bonkers insane. And it just went for broke. And I just totally respect that. There are some insane imagery in this film. I absolutely love it. And whilst I think maybe the last 2 minutes of the movie are a bit like, okay, okay, what are you doing here, The First Omen? Oh, it's called The First Omen. It's like, okay, wait, hold on. Are we going to get sequels to the prequels? Are we going to get The Second Omen, The Third Omen, and then finally there's going to be like a sequel to the prequel that's now an actual sequel to the original, which will be called The Last Omen? Like, what are we doing here? Because I don't know if that makes sense. Although there are ways they can do it, I think, maybe. But yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about the last 2 minutes. The last line of the movie is a bit like, okay, you made a really good movie, and then you were like, but it's a prequel, so we've got to make a dumb thing at the end. Like, the last line of this movie feels like that's what I expected the whole movie to feel like, where I'm like a bit of an eye roll, a bit of like, okay, this isn't the worst thing ever, but it's not good. Whereas the rest of the movie is like, that's a movie, it's a movie. And then the end is like, okay, The First Omen, I suppose you're allowed one. Well, no, you had one in the middle where you just like, remember that scene from the movie you love? What if that, but also fire? And it's like, well, you really didn't need to do that. So you get The First Omen, you get two bad prequel moments.